EURUSD sold off yesterday back in towards the downside after on the 1 hour time frame it retraced in towards that overall liquidity high right over here. Now, as we can see, we had a strong impulse in towards the downside with a beautiful bump in the road within that overall downside push. That bump in the road gets taken out, and then from there we continue our overall route in towards the downside. Now, myself, I've been relatively passive yesterday as it was a US and Japanese bank holiday, so I was out of the markets waiting for price action to develop better. Now, EURUSD sold off a lot more aggressively than GBPUSD, but for EURUSD, this is what I'm currently looking for. Now, after taking out that major liquidity low here on the daily time frame, based on the 4 hour time frame, I really would like to see some higher prices. We still have a lot of liquidity resting above the overall highs here on the 4 hour time frame, above this high here, above this high here, and above this high here. So preferably I would want to see one of those three highs get taken out before then again looking for the next downside push. Now again, at any moment in time, can price obviously continue pushing further in towards downside, but for the highest probability trade, I would like to see some further upside. Also, here we have equal highs acting as liquidity as well, so I'm not a big fan of currently looking for shorts on EURUSD. Can it happen? Obviously yes, but looking at the 4 hour time frame, I would like to see some higher prices. Next to that, looking at the dollar index pushed up higher yesterday, also very similar to EURUSD based on the 1 hour time frame. So if you look here at the 1 hour time frame, you can clearly see here that we had a break of structure in towards the upside right over here. This is then the overall swing low, this is the overall swing high. Within the overall impulse in towards the highs, again, what do you have? You have a bump in the road, and then once that bump in the road got taken out, you saw a 1 hour change of character that was bullish, that eventually pushed the market further in towards the upside. Now, yes, the overall order flow can just continue pushing up higher, and we can continue to see higher prices, but for myself and the strategy that I like using, I would prefer to see some lower prices because I like looking for those bumps in the road or those liquidity lows and highs based on what I see on the 4 hour time frame. And on the 4 hour time frame, I still see there to be a lot of liquidity open underneath, for example, this low here, or for example, this low here. So I'm looking for a little bit of a deeper retracement on the dollar before then looking for the next potential long opportunity. Let's say that the dollar index just continues pushing up higher, then I'll just consider these again ascending lows, which in the future I'll wait for those to get taken out. And then I'll just let the dollar index run up higher. Obviously, we've had a very good week last week, so I don't want to get in too aggressive, but we're currently still situated at the highs, and based on what I see here on the daily time frame on the dollar, we still not yet have made a connection with the overall daily order flow, which is your overall sell down here before the big buy up. So there's no connection being made yet, and really before I want to see kind of like the next good and bigger long positions being taken by myself, I would preferably only do that from inside of the overall zone. So it's favorable for myself to see the dollar index push down a little bit lower, maybe take out these ascending lows right over here, and then I'll be looking for a long. So I'm currently just sitting this one out, waiting for that to happen. And if it happens, then I'll start scaling in quite large. So that's what I have for the dollar index based on the higher time frame. Again, based on what we can see here on the weekly time frame or even on the monthly time frame, you can see that the monthly time frame is still very bullish. We're overall in a clear uptrend. We can clearly see the third trend line rejection here. Now, I don't use trend lines on the lower time frame, but on the monthly, for example, they work really well. And what you can then furthermore see is that we've retraced into the monthly imbalances over here. So these are 50% body candlesticks, as you can see, after which we saw a big impulse in towards the highs and it broke market structure. So that means that this is clear demand, and from that demand zone, we want to look for those further long opportunities. So let's see if we can get those further longs, but for now, I'm just waiting for the daily to reaccumulate, provide me with a tap into that daily demand zone, and then we'll continue with very high probability longs. First of all, into this high here, then of course into this high here, and then ultimately, the ultimate target would be the very beginning of the overall descending channel that we have over here. So as you can see, we're currently breaking out of this overall descending channel in towards the upside. And now what I just want to see is a little bit of a deeper retest and then look for the longs back up to the very beginning of this overall descending channel, as that is where a lot of liquidity lies. So that's what I'm waiting for at the moment, and if that happens again, that's when I'm going to start scaling into my personal positions. Now, looking at GBPUSD, GU was very slow yesterday, not really moving as hard as the euro against the dollar. Now, this is a good thing because currently we are well within our pullback phase, and when we are within our pullback phase, what do we look for? Well, we look for at least 0.5 fib to get hit. So again, if we look at market structure here, very simply said, what we had was a breaker structure up, then we had a breaker structure in towards the downside, then we had a breaker structure in towards the downside, and now again we've had a breaker structure in towards the downside. So we have a high, we have a lower low, we have a lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, and now we're just looking for the next lower high to be formed. But where do we expect the new lower high to be formed? Well, when liquidity gets taken. So for GBPUSD, I'm really looking for that overall high over here to get taken out, after which I would be very happy to look for a selling opportunity once we get the confirmation. By the way, what we can currently see here is that the 4-hour fractal structure is bullish. What we had was after the break of structure, what do we get? We get here 4-hour low break, 4-hour high break. So this is ultimately the change of character and the sign that the market is ready to pull back. We have descending highs here, we have descending highs here, so a lot of liquidity on GU. So I'm favoring a short-term move in towards the upside here for the pound against the dollar. So waiting for that to play out, and then I'll be looking for further short positions in towards the downside, as we're still well within our daily impulsive phase, and I'm still very happy to look for further shorts, but just from a little bit higher prices, and then I'll be scaling in aggressively again, and we'll be selling the absolute shit out of GBPUSD. Now, moving on into AUDUSD, we can see that AU sold off again last night and yesterday. Overall momentum has been heavy in towards the downside. Now, for myself, not the most interesting pair at the moment, still waiting for some lower prices and for this to push down a little bit lower. And I see this in the immediate term also, yeah, again, heading down lower. There's not really anything stopping this at the moment. We're building up a lot of liquidity that we can take out in the future. So I would like to see this just continue a little bit lower. First of all, take out this major liquidity low, and then maybe after that we can start seeing an overall pullback to then take out these liquidity highs. So who knows, a short-term long could occur once this blue dotted line here gets taken out. That for AU, but for the rest, not obviously a very clean pair. Let me just remind you that we still have a lot of liquidity open underneath all of these lows over here, which on, for example, NZDUSD, we have already been taking out. But for NU, again, I'm still looking for that further downside push, but we can see it left without us. But again, what it's just doing now, guys, and don't have FOMO in these kind of positions because we're just building up extra liquidity. So again, here above this high, that's now where liquidity lies. And I personally don't really like getting into these positions too aggressively at the moment, as we've already seen a massive move in towards the downside. So what I'm now waiting for is reaccumulation, as we, for example, saw over here, where you have, let's say, strong bearish order flow in towards the downside. You build up liquidity. Once liquidity gets taken, that's then when you want to look for the sell. So now again, when we look at the current price action that we have within this overall box, what is the market doing? It's building up a lot of liquidity. How? Well, through these little bumps in the road down, right? So push, pull back, push, pull back, push, pull back, push, pull back. So on every single pullback, that is where liquidity lies. I'm just simply waiting for that liquidity ultimately at some point in time to get taken, and then we'll look for the 4-hour change of character, and then we can get into those short positions once again. But for now, just let it run and then wait for the reaccumulation. And then who knows, potentially if the dollar does start pulling back in towards the downside a little bit more aggressively, then NZDUSD should push up higher and can reaccumulate into a better area of value. But at the moment, obviously, it's gone. Looking at USDCAD, we can see that USDCAD has continued its overall leg up higher. I was potentially looking for a short position as we have the 1, 2, 3, so the ascending channel play out, but there's not really anything that signed or signaled to me that we were ready to look for shorts in the form of market structure. So again, we just followed the overall market structure up higher. There's nothing really to do with USDCAD at the moment, then just follow the overall bullish order flow. I'm still interested in seeing what price will do at this overall blue dot line here. But what we would need to see for any potential shorts to start playing out or coming into fruition is obviously start seeing a bearish momentum kick in, and then we could look for shorts. Otherwise, just look for the market to continue pushing up higher as the momentum is in towards the upside. So we don't fight the momentum. Only once, let's say, the overall, let's say, this sub for the buy here, that gets broken, because what now happened is that the sub for the buy here acted as demand to push the market up higher, right? So you want to see that demand zone fill, and then we could look for potential shorting opportunities back in towards the downside. Otherwise, just look to continue pushing this up higher. Going into USD yen, we saw that USD yen has, let's say yesterday, pushed up higher. Overnight, it's been pushing down back a little bit lower. USD yen, not a pair of interest for myself at the moment, and not looking to trade on this anytime soon. So leaving that for what it is. The only way that we could trade it is if we see another leg up, and then at some point in time we maybe see a daily change of character, and then we can look for a short again, for example back down in towards this daily demand zone, but not a pair again that I'm interested in. Looking at USDCHF, we can see that yesterday we had a bullish candle close. Overnight it sold off as well with that weakness on the dollar. So USDCHF is pretty much one of the more clean pairs, I would say, that I really like from a technical perspective. Now, what's happened here on USDCHF is that based on what I can see here on the 4-hour time frame, let's say this here's their swing low, this here was the breaker structure, and this is now the swing high. The market retraced exactly into the 0.5 Fibonacci retracement level, and if we look at the overall impulse in towards the highs, right? So the impulse is this here. Then again, within that impulse, you look for liquidity. So here we have a little bump in the road. Bump in the road gets taken out as liquidity, and then you see a reversal up high. So there were some short-term longs to be taken, but this is not a position that I would be holding very confidently, as again, based on the dollar, there's still the potential that it would make a connection with this daily demand zone. So if the dollar would have made a connection with that daily demand zone, and we would now be pushing up high, then I would be holding USDCHF with confidence. Now I would be very cautious and definitely manage any positions that you're currently in. And then of course we have gold. Now gold is just absolutely on some stuff that I want as well. I don't know how this is even possible, but obviously we just continue pushing up higher and higher. Overall, what we would need for any positions on gold is, again, liquidation. So we need to take out liquidity. Again, where is liquidity? Underneath these bearish candlesticks. So once liquidity gets taken, that's when you can look for a potential long opportunity once again. Otherwise, it's impossible to kind of like get into any longs. So wait for those lows to get taken, and then look for the change of character to happen. And then again, you can look to get into a long position. So that's it for today, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. I am a little bit busy today with some personal family stuff. So I'll not be hosting a live stream today, sadly, but I'll be back with a new live stream on Wednesday, so tomorrow, and on Thursday as well. And Rucker will be hosting one on Friday, but I'll be doing an announcement inside Discord with more information about that. So yeah, guys, thanks for joining in. Wish you a fantastic trading day. A little bit of patience for some new positions, but let's see if the market can come towards us, and then we'll engage with some new trades. Thanks, guys, and speak soon.